What is a flex you're proud of, but too embarrassed to show it off? Story 1. I have a very sensitive nose. I can smell things that others don't, or are not bothered. Embarrassing, because after knowing a woman for about 2 months, I can tell they have their period. I can pick out different people's smell after I know them for a bit. Not something you tell other people. I advise my wife that she may want to keep some items handy about 2 days before she starts. She thinks it's sweet that I track her period for her. In actuality, it's my nose. I've never told her, because I do not want her to be self-conscious. Keen nose gang. It's a blessing and a curse. I know when food is going to turn before it turns. I know when a bathroom stall has just been used by someone on her period. I have woken up from a dead sleep by smelling fire, and looked it up to learn yes, there is a fire, all the way across the city. I feel as though it deepens my appreciation of good food and good smelling things and people. Some people smell so good. And I don't mean because of the products they use. I mean their skin and sweat and pheromones. Healthy people with healthy diets and healthy biomass tend to just smell really pleasant. But I also am scent gagging and retching from certain bad smells, because they are so potent to me that other people seem to barely detect unless they stick their nose in it. I never ever throw meat or meat packaging away in the kitchen trash, because I won't even be able to enter the room within 2 days. All meat scraps and packaging have to go directly to the outdoor trash. And Lord help me if I even walk past a bathroom that a person with a bad gut biome has pooped in sometime in the previous several hours. Story 2. I've had multiple women tell me I'm the best doing they've ever had. One said to me she had to reassess all her previous relationships doing because of it. I told my then current partner this, and she looked at me and said, yeah, obviously. Was that not obvious? You know how many men that say publicly that they're good in bed? Apparently a lot of them. And it's a basic indicator that he's terrible in bed. Better to be surprised. Story 3. I have a fanfic account with a story that has more than 3 million views. Except I wrote it and posted it, then never logged back in. So, I didn't find out until like 10 years later that I was fanfic famous. And a lot of people were really pissed that I never finished the story. Oh no. Finish the story, and point me toward it. It's called A Short Story of Lily and Snape. And it is horribly written by a 14-year-old. Oh no. And I probably won't ever finish it. Because I'm 30 now and those books just don't resonate with me anymore. I would not even slightly recommend reading it, as it is very bad. Oh wow. I remember reading this. 2010 was a dark time for me. I'd failed school and was watching all of my friends go to university, college, and follow their dreams. Meanwhile, I was stuck in my small town, studying to retake my exams. No friends, no life, just stuck at home procrastinating for a full year. I read a lot of Harry Potter fanfic, especially on fanfiction.net. You're right, it is poorly written, but I enjoyed it. I very much appreciate that, and I hope you're doing much better now. That's you. Holy shit. I literally can't believe I stumbled upon you on a random sub. I've thought about that story and the artist who wrote it countless times over the years. I'm completely ducking with you. Oh, thank God, I was very nervous for a moment. Story 4. I was questioned on multiple occasions by the FBI regarding being a witness to a terrorist attack. The questioning sessions were long, detailed, stressful, and took place far from my home for safety reason. As they had picked me up for one of them, the special agents were given instructions to then drop me off at home after the recordings or interviews were completed. I was starving, so, in the back of the unmarked car, I piped up and asked if we could stop at a drive-thru to grab some food. That's how I still have FBI business cards of the agents who interviewed me, with their mobile numbers written on them, along with a Burger King receipt. They insisted on paying. We all sat in the parking lot and ate Burger King together. Extremely surreal time in my life. Yes, the terrorists were caught. One dead, one in Supermax prison. I was also questioned by both the FBI and Secret Service, but for very different reasons. My best friend worked his way up in the military, and then as a civilian contractor who needed top secret clearances, and as his best friend, who lived with him and dated his sister. I was heavily questioned to help approve his clearances. They really dig deep for that stuff. I had a measly secret clearance, just because I was military police in the army and had to work with people's SSN. My mom and I moved out of a house when I was 2, but in the same town, so I still knew who lived there. They were asked questions about how I was as a 2-year-old. I later had my clearance upgraded to a top secret through my career, and had learned to call people I knew from back home and say, "Hey, there may be a time in the near future that some men in black type people come along to ask you some stuff. Just please be as honest as possible." Funny anecdote. I was not aware at all of how security clearances worked. But according to the movies, I expected that once it was in place, I'd be sent to the Pentagon and brought up to speed on everything that I was allowed to know with my clearance. In case you're wondering too, that's not what happens at all. Story 5. I entered a pub quiz while on holiday, when I was about 10 years old, with my family. The prize money was €300, and there were about 30 teams. I won by a margin, and my family didn't answer a single question. My mom and dad still talk about it 20 years later. I have a ridiculously good brain for general knowledge and otherwise useless trivia. At age 29, I was diagnosed with ADHD, and it turns out that my hyper-focusing on random and pointless topics is actually pretty neat. Story 6. I can name around 12 species of plants and trees native to the Appalachian region of Ohio. I've had this skill since I was a preteen. I'm incredibly annoying to hike with, due to my incessant babble about wildlife. I grew up at a summer camp nature preserve that my parents managed, spending the bulk of my time out in the forest with field identification guides. Story 7. I've survived a 12-hour brain surgery through my nose. When I was 12, 22 now, I had a very serious brain tumor. The doctors were pretty worried I wouldn't survive the surgery. And if I did, they knew there was a high possibility I wouldn't wake up, and they were sure I would be blind. None of those things happened after my brain surgery. Last month was my 10-year anniversary of being alive. In January, I moved from my home in NC, where my parents are, all the way to Montana. I'm serving with Army Corps and living independently, doing such cool things. My 10-year MRI was last month. I'm all clean and now approved for 3-year gaps before my MRIs. If it weren't for people like my doctors, and especially the nurses, I wouldn't be here. I'm proud that I went through that even at such a young age. It was rough and terrifying, but also made me who I am today. It's what gives me the courage to persevere even when times are hard. Story 8. Not really embarrassed. I just don't get a chance to share the story. We were driving on a gravel road with no turnaround, and there are cars behind us. I need to pee. It's about 30 more minutes before we can stop. So I grab an empty 32 ounces Gatorade bottle and fill it back up. Too long didn't read. My bladder can hold 32 ounces,